Good morning, wonderful little Jays. Miss Frizzle is here to read you The Magic School Bus Plays Ball. Are you ready? Here we go. The Magic School Bus Plays Ball. When most classes play baseball, they go out on the field, but that's not what happens when you have a teacher like Miss Frizzle. In our class, when we play baseball, we go on a field trip. It strikes me that Miss Frizzle is always having a ball. She's a real hit with me. It all started during recess. We were playing baseball. Ralphie was at bat. Wanda was pitching. The rest of us had taken our positions in the field. There was only one thing missing. "Hey, Wanda, where's the home plate?" Ralphie asked. "There isn't one," Wanda replied. "You have to pretend." "But I'll have nothing to slide into when I hit a home run." Wanda began her pitch. She lifted her leg high, reached back, and suddenly Dorothy Ann raced out into the field. "Hey, you guys!" she shouted. "Check this out! I just found the coolest thing!" Ralphie scowled. "Dorothy Ann," he said with a groan, "not now. I'm one swing away from hitting my way into the record books." "But you've got to see this. It will change your lives," Dorothy Ann insisted. She held up a book. It was called A Child's Garden of Physics. Everyone burst out laughing. "Change our lives? We didn't think so. I think I'll wait until the movie comes out, Dorothy Ann." "I'm really happy for you, Dorothy Ann, but right now I've got a game-winning homer to hit." "But you don't understand," Dorothy Ann said. "This book is all about what gets things moving and what makes them stop. Forces, friction, pushes, pulls. Don't try to force us to listen to this. You're being a little pushy, aren't you?" Nothing could stop Dorothy Ann when she was on a roll. "Okay, picture a big red sled sliding in the snow," she exclaimed. "It's not going anywhere. But if somebody comes along and gives the sled a push, it will move. That's a force. The sled will keep moving until something stops it, like some dirt," she continued. "Things rubbing together cause a force called friction. And the sled stops because the dirt is pushing it against the direction it's moving. This force against the runners is the friction in action. Friction slows down and stops nearly every motion on Earth." Okay, so now we knew what friction was, but what we didn't know was why Dorothy Ann thought it was so important. Ralphie was tired of hearing about friction. He picked up his bat and tapped the dirt where the home plate should have been. Then he remembered Dorothy Ann's book. The book would make a great home plate, Ralphie thought. It was flat, white, and just the right size. "Hey, Dorothy Ann, that book does sound kind of cool," he said. "It is, Ralphie," Dorothy Ann agreed happily. She thought Ralphie wanted to read the book. "And look at this, right here on page 97. Ralphie looked at the page. It showed a picture of a baseball field. "It would be impossible to play baseball on that field," Dorothy Ann told Ralphie. "There's no friction there." "Can I borrow the book?" "Sure, but you'll have to take very good care of it." Ralphie grinned. Now he had a home plate. "Let's play ball," he called out. But before he could get back on the field, we heard a familiar honking coming from the parking lot. It was the Magic School Bus. "All aboard!" Miss Frizzle cried out from the driver's seat. We all ran to the bus. Ralphie dropped Dorothy Ann's book as he raced over. "But Miss Frizzle, we're in the middle of an important game." "Just a field trip delay, Ralphie. It's time to explore the unknown. Be brave, adventurous, and bold." "Today we're going to a baseball game," Miss Frizzle announced. We were confused. A baseball game wasn't new or different or exciting like most of our field trips were. Miss Frizzle, can we go someplace really unusual? Dorothy Ann asked. She turned to Ralphie. Like that place I showed you, Ralphie. You know, page 97. Show them. Ralphie stared out the window as we passed the baseball field. Dorothy Ann followed his glance. She gasped. Her book was lying in the dirt. Field trip. Okay, just as long as we don't get blasted, toasted, or eaten, I'm happy. Don't worry, Arnold. That won't happen until next week. Ralphie, how could you? Dorothy Ann asked. Don't worry, Dorothy Ann, Miss Frizzle assured her. We'll get your book and keep Ralphie happy too. Bus, do your stuff, she shouted. The magic school bus barreled across the playground in the direction of Dorothy Ann's book. The bus spun around and around. Dorothy Ann's book blew open, and we drove right into it. Time to hit the books. This is a whole new way to check out a book. We watched through the windows as the pages flipped by. Miss Frizzle, stop here, Dorothy Ann shouted excitedly. It's page 97, the page I was talking about. It's all about a world without friction. It looks like the world of baseball to me, Ralphie said. The bus ground to a halt. Ralphie raced out the door. Come on, he said. Ralphie, watch out, Dorothy Ann warned. The ground on that field has no friction. Without anything to push against, like the friction of his feet against the ground, Ralphie couldn't stop. He bounced off one wall, slid across the field, and crashed into another wall. Wow, it's Ralphie, the runaway pinball. Whoa! We lowered ourselves onto the baseball field. We slipped and slid across the field. It felt like ice skating, only without the skates. Miss Frizzle blew her whistle. It was time for the game to begin. But without any friction to help us stop, we couldn't get onto our positions. What were we going to do? Just then, the bus flew overhead. It had turned into a magic school bus blimp. Liz was in the driver's seat. She pushed a button and a giant crane dropped down from the bus. The crane lifted us up like bowling pins and placed us in our positions on the field. Play ball! Miss Frizzle cried out. Welcome to the All Frizzle Friction-Free Baseball Classic, Miss Frizzle announced into the microphone. The ground out there has no friction. We repeat, no friction. Well, folks, believe it or not, we're coming to you from inside my textbook, Dorothy Ann added. Our playing field is slipperier than ice. Miss Frizzle, where did you learn to announce like that? You'd be surprised what teachers do during the summer breaks. Wanda got ready to throw her first pitch. She lifted up her leg, pulled back her arm, and hurled the ball at Ralphie. The ball raced in Ralphie's direction, but Wanda slid backwards towards second base. And look at that, folks, Dorothy Ann announced. The force Wanda used really got that ball going and pushed her way back towards second base. Ralphie kept his eye on the ball. He swung as it sailed over the plate. Crack! Ralphie hit a hot grounder right down the third baseline. Carlos tried to scoop up the ball, but without any friction to slow it down, the ball was going too fast to catch. It sped right past them. We waited for Ralphie to run to first base, but he didn't run. The force of the swinging bat started Ralphie spinning in circles. Ralphie spun his way to first. He kept on spinning around the bases. Just as he was about to reach home, Ralphie slammed right into Dorothy Ann. They grabbed onto each other and spun around the field. Do I look like home plate? If you're home plate, I must be safe. Miss Frizzle, Dorothy Ann suggested, I think we better call this game due to lack of friction. Miss Frizzle agreed. Game! She called out. It was time to get back on the bus and go back to the world with friction. Liz pulled out a pin from inside the bus and popped the blimp like a balloon. The bus whizzed on and finally landed safely just outside the frictionless baseball field. Now, all we had to do was get on the bus. But without any friction to help us walk, how could we reach the bus? Suddenly, the hood ornament on the front of the bus shot out, trailing a rope behind it. The ornament hooked itself onto a wall across the field. "Grab on, class," Miss Frizzle ordered. We reached up and took the rope in our hands. "A push is one force that can get us moving," Miss Frizzle said. "What's the opposite?" Wanda gripped the rope tightly. "A pull?" she grunted. Miss Frizzle smiled. "Excellent," she said. And so we pulled ourselves hand over hand down the rope and off the frictionless field. I knew I should have stayed home today. We'd never realized that friction did that much. We all owed Dorothy Ann a big apology for laughing at her. "Wow," Wanda exclaimed. "You were right, Dorothy Ann." "Can I borrow your book when Ralphie's through with it?" Tim asked. "Me too," Arnold said. "Then me," Carlos chimed in. "Wait a sec," Ralphie interrupted. "No one gets the book until we get out of it." We piled into the bus, sat down, and buckled up our seatbelts. It was getting a little windy outside, so we shut the windows tight. "Let's book it," Miss Frizzle said. She put the key in the ignition, but before the bus could move, we heard a loud, scary boom. The wind had lifted the cover off of Dorothy Ann's books right off the ground. The cover, in about 50 pages, had smacked down into the bus. We had to get out of there and fast. In my old school, we pressed flowers in our books. "Any suggestions, class?" Miss Frizzle asked. "Better floor it, Miss Frizzle," Wanda proposed. Miss Frizzle pushed down on the gas pedal. The engine roared, the wheels spun, but the bus didn't budge. "Oh no," Dorothy Ann exclaimed. "The cover of the book is pushing down so hard that it's creating too much friction for the wheels to push us out. We're stuck. I guess we'll be food for the bookworms." "I can't believe this," Ralphie said. "We're stuck in Dorothy Ann's book." "What will happen to us if we can't get out?" Phoebe asked nervously. Miss Frizzle just smiled. "As I always say, those who are book-bound should take a look around." She opened the bus door and leaped outside. "This way, class." We really didn't want to get out of the bus, but we didn't want to be stuck inside the book without our teacher either. So we followed Miss Frizzle onto page 97 of Dorothy Ann's book. "There's not enough friction down here to push the bus out, and there's too much friction up here." Keisha tried to gather all the facts. "Okay, where do we stand?" she asked. Somewhere between pages 96 and 97, Carlos teased. Keisha frowned. That was not what she meant. "Carlos," Keisha scolded. "Hey, I was just trying to lighten things up," he apologized. Tim smiled. Carlos had just given him a great idea. "Lighten things up," Tim exclaimed. "That's it. We climb up on the roof and push up on the book." Keisha looked at him. "You're saying we should hold up the book, get in the bus, and drive away?"